Hello and welcome back to the Eurobox for the 24-25 season. You're probably wondering where we've been. Well, Euros had finished and we filmed the finale. Due to technical difficulties, I could upload it, but I'll put it. That was the Eurobox finale. You've just watched that. That was a cut down section of the Eurobox finale from the Euros into probably 5 seconds. And um we're back for the European season, and I'm joined today by Joseph Terry.
Hey everyone, Joseph Terry, former head of sport at Express FM, student radio station at the University of Exeter, and as of 2 weeks and 2 days ago, commentator for BBC Radio Devon.
So we see Joseph's moving up. We love to see that success, and we hope the best for you. Well, it's not the end of the video.
Eurobox success, outside the box success story, genuinely coming in.
Yeah. We loved having you on when you're on the Eurobox, and we're proud to see that you're moving up in the
Thank you,
media
Leny.
world. And first game we got to talk about, we got to move to match day one. The new tournament commenced and had a new format, new league format with each team playing a few amount of games, and then you go into the knockouts. We start off with a big game from match day one, which was Bayern 9, Dinamo Zagreb 2. Now, talk me through this match, Joseph. What did you think when you saw this?
Well, it sort of proved the benefits and negative side effects of the new format in that we've got a lot more teams in, but that doesn't mean that those new teams are going to be competitive. And as you can probably tell by a scoreline of 9-2, not exactly competitive. And Harry Kane scoring 5, Michael Olise with 3, with 2 even, and I will use the French pronunciation as one Thierry Henry did for the Olympics tournament squad, which is great fun. Don't know if people remember that, but when he was announcing the squad, he said Michael Olise en français, Michael Olise en anglais, or in English. But yeah, Michael Olise with 2. Again, people are expecting this Bayern game to be dominant, but 29 shots and 19 on target for Bayern Munich with 70% possession. Yeah, this is where the new format sort of falls apart for me, because actually, even though Dinamo Zagreb, again from Croatia and multiple time consistent successive championships, even for them, they get their money off the Champions League. Bayern Munich are doing this for prestige, basically, let's say. But it does sort of cheapen the group stage a bit, this, where you've got 9-2 games with teams that should be probably nowhere near the Champions League.
Now, I agree with you because Bayern wanted to come into this tournament saying we were undefeated in the group stages of the previous style of the format, the previous style of the tournament. And now we want to go in. We bring in our A team. They practically played their first, obviously they're going to play their first team squad in the Champions League, but they played their best squad going in. And you could tell from the start they were going in, and we were going in to show this is our tournament. We don't care if it's new format, old format. We're coming to win this tournament. And one player I want to highlight who's been having an amazing start since he's joined the Bayern squad, and that's Michael Olise. In this game, he had 2 goals against Dinamo Zagreb, and so far during his Bayern's tenure, he's had 5 goals and 3 assists in 8 matches, and in the previous game, he had 2 goals and 2 assists against Werder Bremen. Now, talking about Olise, as Expression FM listeners, as Eurobox listeners, you would know for a long period of time, I'm a big fan of him. And I've always been an advocate for Michael Olise from his days in Crystal Palace. And because I first started hearing about when he was a Reading player, when obviously me and him are similar ages, and he was in the come up at Reading and then joined Crystal Palace. Then I started watching him play, and he's probably one of the best players I've seen. And obviously, I wanted him to join the England squad. Unfortunately, he's decided to play for France. Obviously, he's getting selected for the France squad, and that's brilliant to see. But talking more about Olise, how do you feel he's stepped into this Bayern squad and proven to be a first team player in that squad?
when I saw the transfer at first, I was surprised by it because it felt like such a huge jump. Now, that isn't to say that the caliber of Michael Olise wasn't a top level player, but I never saw him going straight away to continental Europe in the first place.
Now, where did you see him going?
I saw him going to a side like Arsenal or Chelsea, or, well, maybe not Chelsea given they're mid-table these days, but Arsenal, or I could see him going to even a side like Manchester United, actually, I could have seen. Somewhere at the top-ish level of the Premier League. I didn't expect to go to continental Europe straight away. And he's just fit in so well within that system. And he's also fit in well because he's a high-intensity player. And that's why I think Bayern Munich want a high-intensity players. And it's been great to see him do so well. And I think what we've now seen is Crystal Palace have had a major fall-off in the Premier League. And that's been because Olise hasn't been there. Of course, they've lost other players too, but I think it's obvious to see they're lacking that attacking threat that Olise gave. And that front pairing for Bayern Munich, we've got elite, or front group even, you've got Olise, Gnabry, Musiala, Kane starting in the game against Dinamo Zagreb. That is a fearsome attacking line. Musiala and Olise, superb young players. Harry Kane finally hitting form after what was a fairly difficult first year, even if he scored a lot of goals. And Serge Gnabry is just a class act in general. So Bayern Munich, again, people are always going to say they have a good chance even in the Champions League, but they're so strong this year just by the start of the season. And that also bodes well when it comes to the Bundesliga, because, of course, last year, Bayern Leverkusen were just unstoppable. They're not so unstoppable anymore.
Yeah, these additions to the squad, Olise, João Palhinha, if I'm not wrong, he's also joined them.
Palhinha.
These additions to the squad are bolstering up to possibly go for the Bundesliga title. Hopefully for Kane, even a DFB Pokal in the German league would be good for him. But moving on, we'll talk about, as I've just said a few seconds ago, Harry Kane. Harry Kane in that match, 4 goals. Absolutely immense. And he's shown over the years during his time at Spurs as well that he is arguably probably one of the best players in the world. And 4 goals against Dinamo Zagreb, 3 goals, 1 assist against Holstein Kiel, and 2 assists, 1 goal against Werder Bremen. Could this be the season where Kane wins a trophy? I personally see it, whether that be a DFB Pokal or the Champions League. Maybe they've got the competition now with Borussia Dortmund and Bayer Leverkusen in the Bundesliga, but could this be the season where Kane wins a trophy?
I think it is. I think it is because Bayern Munich's season got off to a horror start at the start of last season with the Super Cup. And they had a shock loss against RB Leipzig. And everybody after that point stood up a bit and realised, hang on, it isn't nailed on that he's going to win a trophy. And I think after that point, actually, the momentum was totally sucked out of that squad. And obviously, that then led to, at one point, nearly a change of manager. But you're looking at the first few results, and the 1-1 draw against Bayer Leverkusen means that they're on an equal footing now. And I think Harry Kane is also a lot more confident within that team as well. 10 goals already this season over 8 games. And 5 assists. 15 goal contributions over 8 games in the league is prolific. That is prolific. And I think Harry Kane is actually getting more used to not only the league, because the Bundesliga is for as much as people take the mickey, it is a very unique league, or it's a unique league in that you've got various teams that can win the title. And also there's lots of fluctuation between the leagues and the standards of the teams. Borussia Dortmund right now, I mean, they're fighting at the top of the Bundesliga. 2 years ago, they were in 10th, weren't they? Bayer Leverkusen, nowhere near the top of the table 2-3 years ago. And even sides of had relegations every so often, like Hertha Berlin and Wolfsburg and Schalke. So the Bundesliga is very volatile. And I think Harry Kane knows that now. And I think we're seeing him move into that role as being an out-and-out centre forward, an out-and-out number 9, as it were. And I think that's where he's always been suited, let's say. Because it's a big year for him, because obviously he doesn't have the English international stuff waiting for him at the end of the year. He can focus basically solely on domestic football. Next year is a different story. He's going to have the World Cup to think about if he's still playing for England by that point, which I would expect so. But this year, he can just focus on domestic football. That's that, really. He's got the qualifiers for the World Cup, but the qualifiers are the qualifiers, and the Euro, and so on and so forth. I mean, he can focus on the league. And I think that's sort of where you're seeing a change of mindset. Because last year, did you think he was always keeping one eye on the Euros? Probably was the case.
Yes, that's true. And talking about England and Kane, the new England manager Lee Carsley has started off his tenure as the manager of England as interim manager. But I personally see him as a manager who I would like to be the permanent manager. And he's released his new squad for the Nations League. And so we're looking at the squad and a few new additions to the squad. And a few I wanted to point out in the form of Angel Gomez and Noni Madueke. Both have been added into our squad. They were in the under-21 squad that Lee Carsley previously used. And you can see from the new squad that he's put out that a lot of the players that are in that squad are the same players from the under-21 system that Lee Carsley was a key part of. Now, in terms of when Angel Gomez got the call-up, I'm a big fan of Angel Gomez, former Manchester United player, and now at Lille. And seeing him in the squad, I was not expecting it. That's the best way to put it. And Noni Madueke, coming off the bat of a few good games, was called up as well, but he's an amazing player. He's another player I've been watching since he was at PSV, and a player I wanted at Manchester United, but unfortunately, but fortunately, he's at a good club now. He's at Chelsea, and both players got the call up for the England squad, and we actually went to Wembley Stadium to watch a game. Myself and Joseph went to England versus Finland, which was a very good game. And Joseph, would you like to talk a bit more about that game?
Yeah, a really good experience. First time I've been to Wembley. Lenny's been there a few more times than I've been there, but first time I've been to Wembley. Actually, I was never a kid who went to football games consistently. So it's always a new experience really when it goes to going to football games, and a great experience. And actually, even if it was a Nations League game, and I think some of the criticism about Nations League is a bit valid when it comes to, you know, poor competition, poor attendances, and games that no one really cares about. There was still a decent atmosphere to a level there. But lots of Finnish fans turned out. Obviously, it's not too far for them to go for an away day to the UK. And also, the team that was named was fairly strong. I mean, you had players coming in towards the end you weren't expecting to start games consistently, but it wasn't like it was treated as a friendly. And it was just also better football to watch. I know it's been done to death, the idea of Gareth Southgate playing cautious football when he was England manager, but you did genuinely see a different style of football and a different style of mentality and philosophy when it came to Lee Carsley's England side, but it was a lot more attacking and also a lot more willing to take risks, which was quite interesting to watch, because even though Finland were never expected to be challenging for the whole game, and for the second 45, Finland were playing essentially 8 in defence, 9 in defence, just camped on their penalty area and trying to block any shots, which was expected in fairness. It still was a side trying to make chances happen, which was interesting to see. And actually, it was refreshing because it didn't feel like an England game where you were trying to count the chances on one hand like it was in the Euros, which, again, we've already discussed that, but it's sort of, He gives me a bit of positivity and a bit of hope, let's say, for the future of English football. The thing, though, is that I am slightly concerned about how many young players coming in. I understand you need to get younger players in, and there are lots of aging players in that squad still. You're looking at players like Walker, Stones. You're looking at somebody up front like Harry Kane. I mean, Grealish has had injury issues as well. I mean, some of these players are going to start to age a bit, so you need to start that pipeline of new players coming in. But I am slightly, I will say, slightly confused, say, where you've got players like Morgan Gibbs-White coming in after what's been a fairly standard season for Nottingham Forest at the bottom of the Premier League, or even Angel Gomez. I mean, I understand he's part of the under-21 setup, but the rest of these players are all either playing in the Premier League or have played in the Premier League. And how many Premier League caps has Angel Gomez got?
You say the point about Angel Gomez not playing in the Premier League, but you have to think about, have times changed? And in the past, obviously, there was a Premier League oriented squad with your Frank Lampard, Paul Scholes, Steven Gerrard, Wayne Rooney, Rio Ferdinand, Ashley Cole, and a few more players in that setup. But are we moving away from that Premier League oriented squad? You got your Jude Bellingham at Real Madrid. You got your Conor Gallagher at Atletico Madrid. You've got previous players who played in abroad. It's Jadon Sancho at Borussia Dortmund, Kieran Trippier at Atletico Madrid, and you got more players going abroad. And I would like to give a few more. You got Jamie Bino Gittins at Borussia Dortmund and Samuel Illing Jr. currently at your beloved Bologna. And you see the setup of a lot of these players are moving abroad now because Premier League has less chances because the Premier League teams are also favoring players, a mixture of players from different countries and English homegrown talent. But a lot of players nowadays it started off with, I would say personally, I feel like the catalyst was Jadon Sancho and now Jude Bellingham moving abroad, and now loads of other players are doing the same. And you could see that from the England setup. A lot of the players in the squad now aren't playing in the Premier League, but are playing abroad. So yeah, so that's my argument I would like to give for your point about
It is a fair point. But I think the reason why I say that is that at least in those cases, Jadon Sancho was getting consistent game time abroad. I think if I'm seeing Angel Gomez getting consistent game time in a proper top level league, maybe I'll start to turn a bit. But at this point, Angel Gomez is still a bit unproven to me, let's say. It's a bit like how Theo Walcott got a start at 17 years old for England before he even started playing games for Southampton. I mean, it's a bit premature, let's say. Either way, though, Gomez did hold up fairly well. And we'll wait and see how he gets on.
Now, I say this point with the utmost respect for him. I'm such a big fan of him. But you have to say the same for someone like Eberechi Eze, plays at Crystal Palace, arguably the same level as Lille. Lille play in the Champions League, but when it comes to comparing the two teams, a Crystal Palace and a Lille, in terms of stature, are very similar. So you could say, how is Eberechi Eze making the squad if he's playing for a team in the standard of Crystal Palace? But someone who's Angel Gomez plays for a Champions League team. Lille are in the Champions League. So you could say he has an argument for making it into the England squad.
I think the thing with Eberechi Eze is that I could see him getting a big money move soon anyways. Eberechi Eze at Palace is different from Eberechi Eze at Arsenal, which I could see happening. So it's I think about Eberechi Eze's future, because I don't think he's going to be at a relegation battling Crystal Palace side much longer, let's be honest about that. Of course, Lille are a strong Champions League team, but also it's the caliber of the league. It's the caliber of the league that really matters. That's why we respect Bellingham and Gallagher and Kane to less of a degree than Bellingham and Gallagher, because generally speaking, football fans respect the Bundesliga and respect La Liga. Do they respect Liga? No. And is that valid? Probably is to a degree. I mean, who else is going to be winning the treble every year apart from PSG? And of course, Lille had their moment when they were able to do really well and win a league title only 2 years ago. But then the next year, their squad got gutted and they were back in the Europa League, I think it was. So I think the thing is that Liga isn't respected. That's why people were a bit surprised by Angel Gomez. Now, if that's fair or not, I don't know. But that is what happens.
We're talking about England talents, and we've talked about Angel Gomez. We move on to another England talent in the form of Samuel Illing Jr. And what team does he play for? Bologna. Nice little transition from me. But we would like to start off this segment. A new segment I want to do, which I've seen quite a lot being done on from other creators, but I would like to do it myself, which is start, bench, sell, or loan. And I'll read you a list of the Bologna players, and I want you to tell me, Joseph, would you start them, would you bench them, or would you sell or loan them? Very easy concept, but I'll go through it. We'll start off with the Bologna goalkeepers. And if you would like to expand on your point and say a bit more about that player, why you would keep them, why you want to sell them, we'll start off with Lukasz Stropowski. Would you start,
Yeah.
bench, or sell?
We're starting Lukasz Skorupski. He's been there for donkey's years. He's been there for so long. And he's been consistent when it comes to his performances. Lukasz Skorupski, he's starting. And actually, the thing is that when you look through the rest of the goalkeepers, Bagnolini, even, excuse me, is quite a young player, only 20 years old. Ravaglia is 24. So they're both at a fairly similar age, actually. And both of them have fairly little game time too. The thing is that the Italian league has a much less developed football league system than England has ever had. That's the way it works. Serie B is professional, but Serie C is not. Serie C is 4 divisions below that. I think by default, I mean, we've just signed Bagnolini anyways, and he's only 20 years old. His experience before this was in the youth setup in the Primavera Uno. So on that case, you probably bench Ravaglia and you loan out Bagnolini to get some game time because so far his only experience is playing youth football.
Wouldn't you keep 3 goalkeepers? Because 3 goalkeepers for Bologna might come in handy when they need to bench a player for a small, like a cup competition.
But there aren't really cup competitions in Italian football because you just have the Coppa Italia. That's it. There's just one league.
That's right.
There is just one cup in Italian football, and if you're out, you're out. This is where Italian football is different to English football because there are so many less games actually that you play as a squad.
And we'll move on to defenders now. We'll start off with Lorenzo De Silvestri.
Yeah, De Silvestri, been around forever, bit of a legend in the club. I mean, he's going through large injury periods as it stands. I mean, he's back to fitness now, but he got injured towards the end of last year, and he's 36 years old. I mean, he's been there since 2020. Came in on a free. However, he's been there forever almost. It feels like it at least. It's you don't want to say sell because he's old, but also you kind of do because there are lots of other really strong defenders. So I'm going to sadly say sell.
Okay, now I'm gonna go because there's a lot of defenders. I'm gonna quick fire. So I just want you to say start, bench,
Okay,
sell.
great.
Okay,
So
cool.
look,
Charlo Lambos, Lyko Giannis.
Liko Yanis, I'm starting him. Great wing back. Great player. He's there. He's starting.
Stefan Poch,
Bench.
Martin Ehrlich,
Loan.
Nicolo Casale,
Uh, probably sell.
John Lucchini,
Bench.
Sam Bukema, sorry,
Start.
Juan Miranda,
Start.
Emil Holm,
Bench.
Tommaso Corazza,
Oh, yeah. Loan.
Now moving on to midfielders, Bremer Freuler,
Freuler, definitely starting. Definitely starting him.
Nico Nicola Moro,
Haven't heard much about him, and you don't see him much, so probably sell.
Tommaso Pobega, currently injured,
Loan.
Mitchell
Abishai.
Abisher.
Abishai is starting. He started at the Euros. He's starting.
Now, this is a player I want to highlight, Lewis Ferguson.
Yeah, no, he is starting as soon as he's back fit and he's not got an injured ACL like he got towards the end of last season. Rest up.
Nicolo Cambiaghi,
Uh, Loan.
Nicholas Fatia,
Sell. Never see him on matchday squad.
Giovanni Fabian,
Loan out. He's 21 years old.
Osoma El Azoui.
Bench, because I think he's a new signing. So bench him. Can't say much more.
This is a lone player who I've highlighted. Obviously, you can't buy or sell him, but Samuel Illing Jr., would you?
He starts as many games as he's fit to play, let's say, because he's only 21 even. 21 even, excuse me.
Riccardo Orsolini,
Starting, legend. He's been there forever.
Jens Odegaard.
Probably loan out. You can't sell too many.
Jesper Karlsson,
Sell.
Chigis Dalinga.
Sell.
Another player I want to highlight, Dan Ndoye.
Starting him. He was starting for the Swiss team in the Euros, and he's been scoring goals. He definitely starts.
Kasper Urbanski.
Urbanski bench, because he started a lot last year, but I wasn't exactly proven on him.
Santiago Castro.
Sell. He's getting a bit old.
And the final player in the squad, Benjamin Dominguez.
Probably loan him out. He started a lot 2-3 years ago. I haven't seen him that much recently.
So that was the Bologna squad. You said you want to start, bench, or sell or loan them. But we'll move now on to your beloved Bologna, who we were just speaking about, and talking about their 2 games in the UCL so far. And it's not been looking the best, but what would you like to say about how Bologna have started off this UCL campaign?
I mean, the thing is that we weren't expecting to get a result against Liverpool. 2-0 loss was what we probably deserved. Shakhtar Donetsk, on the other hand, probably should have definitely got a result out of it. I mean, we didn't lose because of a great save by Skorupski from a penalty. Firstly, a great moment to have UCL football, European football back at the Renato Dall'Ara. But moreover, a scrappy game, a really scrappy performance. And it hasn't been a great start to season for Bologna at all. But we're getting used to more games in the season. We're not used to playing more than 2 games in midweek. And the thing is that at the end of the day, the squad is probably not Champions League level, but we got there in the end. So I think if we can get to the knockouts, it would be an amazing achievement. Will it happen? I'm less proven.
Well, now you have to head off now because our show is nearly finished for your segment, as you have to head off. But before you leave, I want to thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Lenny.
I would like to also ask for your prediction on a few UCL matches for match day 3. I'll just fly through them. Real Madrid versus Dortmund, the UCL final rematch.
Real Madrid, Dortmund, 2-0 Real.
PSG versus PSV.
PSG 3-0.
Atletico Madrid versus Lille.
2-2.
Barcelona versus Bayern Munich.
1-2.
RB Leipzig versus Liverpool.
3-1 Liverpool.
The Leny derby in the Manchester United versus Fenerbahce.
Fenerbahce 2-1.
And the final game I want you to predict is your beloved Bologna versus Aston Villa.
2-0 Villa.
So you're not putting Bologna to come up with a
Not against John Duran right now.
John Duran has been informed. We'll speak about him later on the show. But thank you for coming on, Joseph. It's been a pleasure
Thank you,
having
Lenny.
you on.